Hey,
Hey, long
how are
time
you?
no see. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, not too shabby. It's finally got a nice. Well, I guess we've had some nice days out, so I can't really complain too much about the weather. But I'm finally outside trying to just enjoy some of it. So
Yeah, well, and you're here with us in Detroit. We've talked to a lot of bands, but you guys are fellow Detroiters.
heck yeah,
So
heck yeah.
it's finally, it's crazy because when quarantine started, we were talking and doing all these Instagram live chats, and all these bands were in California, and like, oh, it's so nice out, and at least I can go out for a walk.
Meanwhile, you're in Michigan, just like if only you knew.
I was like, oh, well, it's May 1st and it snowed again.
I know, right? I mean, that's the one thing, at least right now, this whole thing, COVID and stuff isn't hitting right during like November or December, because I feel like that would be the ultimate, like, no-go for me. So fingers crossed we can hopefully get some of this stuff figured out soon enough so we can get back playing shows and stuff. But fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, you guys were overseas, if I'm not mistaken, on tour for the latest album, Trauma, when all of this kind of happened. So how was that for you guys? Because I can imagine that it was not great.
Strangest experience, like, honestly, ever in terms of touring. Because basically we were out in Europe. And actually, when we flew out, that's when COVID was starting to just, like, make some noise. So I remember, like, me and Dom, who's our PA, actually both had masks on in the airplanes, and, like, nobody else did at that time. And it's so funny now to, like, look back and be like, all right, maybe we were doing the right thing. But, yeah, basically we got out there, played maybe 10 to 15 shows. Everything was going pretty good. We had still heard that COVID was kind of messing up different cities and whatnot, but luckily things were disconnected there for a minute.
Oh, you're okay. I can hear you. You're frozen. There you go. Here we are.
There we go. Back again. Sorry about that. But anyway, yeah, basically things got so crazy where we were playing a show in Germany and we came off stage. And I remember that day, like, hearing a bunch of rumblings on, like, Twitter and stuff that things were getting worse and Europe could start to get shut down and whatnot, because I think France had already started. And basically, we got off stage and came off. There was a press conference being held that basically said Europe was going to shut down pretty soon and you were only going to be able to fly out of the UK starting Friday. So right then we kind of had to make the call, and Live Nation got involved and our managers, and just all sorts of craziness went on, where basically we went from, like, thinking we had another 2 or 3 weeks left of shows to instantly driving to the Amsterdam airport, getting on a plane, and luckily getting out of Europe in time, because it was crazy. I remember we were trying to, like, book tickets and, like, rechange our ticket fees, and it was ridiculous. Like, every ticket was like an extra, like, what they were wanting to charge us, like, an extra $3,000 or some ridiculousness. Which, yeah, it got really hard. And luckily, our lighting guy actually was a travel agent in the past, so luckily he somehow pulled everything off where we got home safe. But it was a pretty surreal experience to kind of have your whole, like, 6 months of the year to start planned out, and then essentially in one day everything changes, where you think you're touring, you think, because we were going to come right into the Papa Roach Five Finger tour right after that, and now all of a sudden it turned into, like, all right, well, there's no touring, and basically you're at home now, and you got to figure out ways to be productive and ways to kind of keep things afloat. So luckily we've had a lot of time to work on new stuff, and we've been trying to film some videos and just do things to keep us productive. But yeah, that definitely was one of the crazier moments, especially just coming off. And I remember, like, I was on the airplane. I thought everything was still serious at the time, but then we were on the airplane coming back, and I saw all the sports leagues and stuff were starting to cancel. So that's when it kind of woke us up to, like, man, this might be like this for a little bit. So it's been a weird experience, that's for sure.
Well, the tour with Five Finger Death Punch, as of right now, the Detroit date anyway, got pushed back to November.
Yep.
And as of right now, I feel like that's still thumbs up. But
fingers crossed. Yeah, everything we've heard, everything's still planning on going on. So I have my fingers crossed. It's funny. I'm actually. I think I was supposed to get married the exact same day now that the new Detroit show is. So we actually had to move back our wedding date a little bit around it. So fingers crossed that it still happens, because I think playing Little Caesar Arena too has always kind of been a dream for everybody. Especially we're huge Pistons fans and Red Wings fans. So just being able to play a show where they play would be pretty crazy. So fingers crossed that it can still get pulled off.
Yeah, well, congratulations on your engagement. And
Thank you.
What are your thoughts, though, on getting married? If that show happens, like, what about getting married on stage at Little Caesars Arena?
We actually did laugh about that for a minute. Who knows? Maybe I'll still have to bring my fiance out on stage and we do some sort of funny thing or something, because it would be pretty cool. Just, I mean, with that show too, I know they're expecting like a ridiculous amount of people. I think it's honestly was close to selling out, so it would be a pretty cool show to do something there.
Well, yeah, especially in your hometown, and you'd have everyone from your friends to people you don't know that love you guys to cheer you on. I don't know.
Straight up, no, I'm with it. We got to make it happen.
All right. Well, if it happens, I'll get ordained. I'll do something.
I love it. I love it. Exactly. Yeah. Come out there, marry us.
Yes. Well, you guys have a new single coming out, Every Time You Leave, which, and I feel like we should talk about the album, which is just over a year old, Trauma, which it's so weird, like, when you think about the song, it came out a year ago, the album that came out a year ago, and then how it's relating so well to some of the stuff that's going on. So talk about the next single and your guys' feelings towards that. Yeah.
With Every Time You Leave, it's a song that we kind of initially went in writing about, funny enough, like leaving and kind of being away from your significant other. I remember when went and wrote it, especially me, Eric, and Steve, who all have significant others. Steve's actually married, and Eric has a super long-time girlfriend, where it was something where we really just kind of wanted to write a song and show them, like, hey, even though we're away, this is kind of something you can throw on and know that we're thinking of you. Because obviously I Prevail, we tend to like to lean into our heavier side a little more with songs like Bow Down and Dead Weight and well, I guess Hurricane's not the heaviest song in the world, but we definitely tend to like to lean into our heavy side a lot. But with this song, I think every once in a while we like to rock out a ballad, and especially one that lyrically kind of means so much to us. And even too, just meeting so many fans and meet and greets and stuff. I'm shocked about the amount of military fans we have, or the amount of people who travel and are away from their significant other for a long time. So it's been really cool to kind of see how this song is reflected with people who kind of do experience that and are away for long periods of time. Because even for us on this European tour into this 5-finger tour, we essentially had kind of mapped out, like me and my fiance, we aren't going to see each other for basically the longest time we had ever, because we started dating, I want to say, 2 weeks before we actually signed to the record label back in 2015. So we've been together essentially the entire time the band started. And with that, this recent trip, it was supposed to be the longest we had ever been separated. So like I said, that song just kind of, it really plays into kind of the way that we feel about all our significant others. And hopefully it's just a song too that can kind of, people can relate to it. And even if you're only away for short periods of time, I think everybody can kind of know what it's like to be away from the person you love the most.
Yeah.
Even sometimes a day or two can be really hard. So it's been cool, and we have a really awesome music video actually planned around the whole thing too, that we're going to be hopefully dropping this month. We actually, funny enough, filmed it when we were out in LA for the Grammys, where we actually filmed our DOA video too with Joyner Lucas that we just recently put out. So luckily for us, even though as crazy, I guess, as things are in the world right now, we had a lot of this stuff, I guess, banked to be able to put out around this time. So,
well, that's what I was going to ask. Like you said, so you already have a music video for it, which is cool. But have you guys been working on others, like, while we've been sitting here? I know, I feel like the whole band is here in Detroit, right?
Yep. I think Dylan actually used to live in the Grand Rapids on the West Coast, but now he actually just moved over. So we have everybody in this kind of pocket. And the biggest thing, honestly, we've just been trying to think about things that are actually, you're able to do them, because even right now it's really hard to shoot like big crazy budget music videos or anything with like a bunch of cast or anything. But me and Ben, who I have a really good relationship with, who shoots all of our videos, we've been trying to brainstorm on, like, where, funny enough, in my basement, me and our photographer Kurt actually set up a giant green screen. So basically Kurt's going to rent a camera, and we're going to try to like film a bunch of stuff and give it to Ben, and he's going to edit it for a different song that we're actually trying to film a music video with. And even outside that, we actually had our producer fly into Michigan for a couple weeks, and we've been writing a lot for the new record. And then even we're trying to plan some stuff where we have a lot of things going right now too, to be able to put out a deluxe Trauma record, hopefully at either the end of summer or early fall. That's not only going to have all these remixes and the remix with Joyner, and we actually did a song with Millennium, who's an EDM artist. But the plan with it too right now, we recorded every single show that we did over the last couple of years. So the plan is to take a song, each song from Trauma, and I think the plan is to do like Bow Down from Detroit, Michigan, and then like Gasoline from Vienna, Austria, and then Hurricane from Germany. So we're going to just hit in a lot of places, and hopefully that's something too that can kind of get the fans and get people who like our band excited, though, even though we to kind of get in their car or listen in their house and almost feel the energy and kind of feel the live side of it. And I think even too, now we're going to start working on like you said, since every time he leaves the next radio song, I think we're going to work on an acoustic track to go with it for that. So basically just trying to utilize our time as much as we can right now to just stay as productive as we can and make sure that that kind of things can stay afloat in such a crazy time. Because I know a lot of bands are having the same exact issue where it's like, well, shit, touring is like the number one thing for a lot of bands. So when you get off the road and all of a sudden now you're not touring, you realize you have all this free time. So now I think it's just trying to utilize it to make the comeback that much crazier when shows finally do resume.
Yeah, I can't wait for the first show that we get to.
I know it's gonna be insane. It's
gonna be crazy. But so you've mentioned, and a couple of people have commented on the stream so far. But you've mentioned a couple times like new album. So was that already in the works? Prior to quarantine, or was that something like you said, shit, like we can't?
So that's kind of it's the blessing and the curse side of things. Because honestly, the plan this year was pretty much to just be road warriors, hit the road a ton, maybe do a little bit of writing and whatnot. But we really had our year booked out to where it was going to be nonstop. I think right after the Five Finger Tour, we went to Australia, and then we were going to come back to Europe for a second time, and I think we're going to try to do another thing in the States where it was just very, the whole year was pretty much mapped out, where now all of a sudden that this happened, it really has allowed us to kind of think about the future a little more and think about like, all right, is it possible to maybe, now I will say I don't think we're putting out a new record this year or anything, but I will say I think it's an obtainable goal for us to hopefully write the majority of the thing this year. So who knows, you may see a single in November or December from it, but in a perfect world, to me, I would love to have this album out early next year and kind of be able to have this be like one of the first things that kind of comes out when the touring starts. Because it's a thing too for us where we had been on the road so much since writing Trauma that we really had not been able to get in the studio, especially with Tyler Smith, who is our main producer and we write a lot of the songs with. And just being able to kind of get back with him and start writing again, we realized like, wow, this is something where we feel really confident what this next album is going to be about and kind of what we're doing sonically with it and just how much we've kind of advanced in our own musical taste and our own writing ability. So it is something where, I don't want to put like a timestamp too much on it, but it definitely will be a thing where we're going to write a ton this year, and hopefully new music won't be too far after that, especially too with all these things we have mapped out where Every Time You Leave video that's going to come out, and then we have some other videos and we have a live album. So hopefully that stuff can kind of take over the rest of the summer and early fall, and then during winter we kind of get into the next album cycle.
With some of the stuff that you guys have been writing and working on for this new material, have you found that it's been everything that's been going on this year, 2020 itself, has kind of been helpful? And
most definitely. I would say it's definitely given a lot of topics and a lot of things to be able to write about, because obviously with the last record we really hit on depression and anxiety and some really dark things, and I think honestly everything going on in 2020 is only kind of leading to some of the songs going in that pocket again, where not that we won't ever write super positive songs like we had on the Lifelines record per se, but we just kind of want to be real and keep talking about things that are truly going on and things that we believe in. And that's even kind of where DOA sufficed from, where we didn't want to make DOA to be a whole thing like, oh, if you're on this side you suck, or if you're on this side you suck. It was more of a piece where we just wanted to show everything that was kind of going on in the world that we had viewed, and just make a piece that kind of wakes people up and kind of can make people go like, all right, I can kind of notice these things that they're talking about in this video without them too much having to, say it, I guess. So
well, and I feel like that's a great way to kind of position it and to show people and like open people's eyes and like see like what's going on, like, and music is so subjective and people can take the lyrics and associate it with something personal, but at the same time, like with everything that's gone on, like, change is a coming and things are happening, and
most definitely.
You know, if you're under a rock, then there's no positivity in that regard. So
exactly, and I think that at the end of the day too is why, whether it's song or music videos or just anything we're doing in the future, we're just trying to do things that really can make a difference and make a positive impact and kind of just open people's eyes to things that, you know, I think too, just as a band, you know, obviously as you go through your career, you just continue growing your own mind and growing kind of what your thoughts and ideas are about certain things. And I think that's allowed us to kind of open up a little more and say, like, all right, we're not as scared to talk about a topic that might, you know, 2 or 3 years ago we probably would have been like, nah, that's too much, or that's too much for our fans to handle. Where now I think it's a thing, especially after seeing the reaction to Trauma from people, whether it was from meet and greets or online comments or just you know, seeing them in the crowd. It's been really amazing to see how much these songs that we really opened up on and kind of shared some real true thoughts from our own heads really kind of resonated with people. So I think that's kind of the plan going forward with everything we do, is just to try to push it to the next level and just kind of keep pushing topics that are important to us.
Good. That's awesome. Well, speaking of topics, I guess we'll change it a little bit because it is 4th of July weekend coming up here. Here in Michigan, you and I both know that, like, first of all, summer's about 3.5 minutes long, right? So you got to get out there.
Well, I'm outside right now. You know it.
Yeah, and so I guess, like, what are some of your favorite, like, 4th of July memories here in Detroit? We have all the lakes. Like, what are your favorite memories? What's your favorite thing to do for 4th of July?
So honestly, my favorite thing, my parents actually are part of this. Like, they kind of have access to this lake where it's really awesome that the whole lake puts on fireworks like every single year. So that's kind of just been the tradition for me. 4th of July, put down, well, now everybody's drinking like White Claws and Trulies. Normally it was just like throw down like a Bud Light or something like that, but everybody just cracks open a little bit. You try to get out on the boat or get out on the water, and I think that's the thing that just, if anybody has access to get out on the 4th this year, I think it's so important. Obviously social distance and make sure you're not being too crazy with it, but if you can get with a good group of friends, I think that's been the hardest time now too. During, like, you say, what's my favorite memory of 4th of July? I think it's just all the family time and friend time and being able to kind of link with people, which now I think over the last couple months, so much of that has been taken away from us. Just because we've all been inside so much. So I think that's honestly just, it's kind of a lame answer, but really just grilling out and just spending time playing. Like, I will say cornhole is like my favorite outdoor game. So we definitely get very competitive with each other when it comes to that. But outside of that, it's all love.
What's your if you have one barbecue tip that you could share with our fans, like, what's your best tip to have, like, the best barbecue, whether it's like meat, veggies, like, what are you going for?
Okay, this is like a weird tip. It's not even necessarily a tip that is like on grilling as much as it's like a health tip that I've ended up finding out. Okay. So I love barbecue sauce. I love smothering everything with barbecue sauce, but obviously, like, there's a lot of sugar and calories, and, you know, you can overdo it a little bit, especially on 4th of July. But I found, and now I feel dumb because I can't remember the actual name of it. It's obviously not Sweet Baby Ray's, but there's a barbecue sauce that has 0 sugar in it that tastes literally exactly the same. I feel kind of dumb for not knowing what it's called right now, but I always make sure to bring that on 4th of July, just because the stuff is so good. And, you know, when you're putting down a bunch of beers and stuff, definitely anything to be able to cut some of the calories, especially in summer, you know. You got to be on.
Well, I'm gonna say, like, unpopular opinion. Like, this is probably the most un-American thing I'm ever gonna say, but I don't like barbecue sauce.
Really? Oh no.
Yeah. Like, that's not my condiment of choice.
So what are you doing on 4th of July? Just like a hot dog with, like, ketchup and mustard?
I don't even do ketchup. I'm mustard all the way. Like, I'll do ribs with, like, a rub and, like, a little bit of barbecue sauce, but like not one of those, like, slather it. Like, I just can't. It's too much.
Fair enough. We all got our own lanes.
And so, like, a couple other things that are kind of like trendy, current moments that I feel like we're probably, like, similar in age. So it was announced today that Beavis and Butthead are coming back.
I saw that, actually.
Yeah. So were you a fan of that? Because they were so rock and roll, right? So, like, they really, like, promoted a lot of rock bands, White Zombie and, like, all that stuff back in the 90s. So, like, what's your
I was, like, just on the tail end of it, so I vaguely remember. But anytime I'm trying to think who it is in the band that's a big Beavis and Butthead fan too. Honestly, it's not hitting me on the top of cuff, but it has come out on the bus at certain times, and it is something where, like, it's a show where if you see that pop up, you'll definitely sit down and watch. What station is it? Like coming back to MTV, or is it
Comedy Central?
Okay, all right. Well, props to them. It'll definitely. I'm sure they'll still be able to be pretty risque with things, I guess.
Supposedly, they're supposed to be like really highlighting like the current modern life. So it's not going to be like Butthead. It's going to be like 2020 Beavis and Butthead. So I can only imagine. All
right. Well, I'll have to give out. Like I said, I haven't watched a ton of it, but I've heard, and obviously, just in pop culture, I feel like it's always been such a phenomenon. Well, I'll definitely make sure to have to check it out.
Cool. Well, okay. And so then one other thing, going back to, I suppose, like the barbecue theme of 4th of July, Heinz Ketchup just announced that they are releasing ice cream flavors, barbecue sauce, mayonnaise, ketchup. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I am appalled.
I think that might be the worst idea I've ever heard, and I would highly doubt that many people will be buying. So there's straight up ketchup ice cream.
Yeah, it's like cream, and they sell you like the ingredients kit to actually like make it yourself.
See, I just feel
like not only you can't even just buy it, like you have to make it yourself. Like
I think they need to go back. Do you remember when like ketchup was like purple and green? Like let's do cool stuff like that. I feel like that's a reasonable thing they might actually be able to sell. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on the fact that anything involving 4th of July and barbecue stuff mixed with ice cream sounds like an absolutely horrible. It's like when Lay's chips does all those like weird flavors that nobody wants. Like, let's come up with like some good stuff,
Right. Oh my God, the flavors that nobody wants. Like we should make a whole list of things nobody wanted. No one wanted this at all.
Don't make this. Don't make it.
Right. And just we have a couple of questions coming in just because we're
live.
So obviously, as a vocalist, and you went through and you talked about it a lot on the last album, like issues like singing, and you went through a lot of stuff. So do you have any tips? We had someone ask, like, any tips to like keeping your voice steady and healthy, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny. I get called the witch doctor on the road just because after the injury, I did turn into such a guy where I'm just like, I got to make sure I'm doing my warm-ups, and I got to make sure I'm, drinking enough water, because there are so many things that you really don't realize as like singers on the road versus everybody else. It's a very different life because, guitarists are definitely putting in, and drummers are putting a lot of work on the practice pad or this or that. I basically, how can I compare this? It's like if a guitarist like hand cramps, like normally they'll be able to push through that stuff, but if you wake up with a sore throat and stuff, like you really can, you gotta really put in work to be able to get through that stuff. So I've kind of developed a technique I actually got with a vocal coach named Jamie Vendera, who's been literally just like my savior in terms of getting my voice back. And funny enough, he actually was on like Mythbusters back in the day. He was like one of the first people to break a wine glass with his voice. So he knows all these weird concoctions. And funny enough, he actually suffered a vocal injury too, because one of the pieces of glass came back and went into his throat, and it actually caused him a lot of vocal damage. So him and I spent a couple of years really, when I was writing Trauma and kind of this last year, really just him getting to learn me and me kind of just getting to pick his brain in terms of things, because there's so many things when you're a new singer. Because even when I came into this whole thing initially and I wanted to be in a band, I had never sang, I had never taken vocal lessons. Like, I was a kid that just came out of high school that was pretty much just hoping that this dream could somehow take off. But once all of a sudden you make it and you're on tour, you realize, like, man, why does my voice hurt so much? Or, smoking a cigarette or smoking something is not a good idea right now.
Right.
So just a lot of things, or even drinking tea. And now I wish I had one with me, but I actually have this bubbler bottle that me and my vocal coach created that basically is kind of like a warm-up tool for you that we're going to be launching in a couple months. That's called like Dr. Vox, that has really kind of been able to keep me maintain my voice on the road. So I wish I could like condense it into to one like really easy answer, but honestly I feel like as a singer, there are just so many elements of things that, whether it's the technique side, whether it's the breathing side, whether even what you eat. It's so funny, but like eating dairy and stuff that causes phlegm can be really bad to like singers, opposed to where for screamers it's actually not a bad. Like Eric can drink like chocolate milk or eat like a cheeseburger and stuff, and it actually makes more phlegm and makes it easier for him to scream. Like, actually, one of the tricks that people have always talked about for screamers in the studio is just to drink a ton of chocolate milk, just because it creates so much phlegm But on the singer side, it's like the exact opposite, because you don't want that stuff, because it'll only
Right.
make you go flat or sharp, or make your voice go hoarse and stuff. So being a singer, definitely you can get in your head a lot too. I think the last big tip I would give is just like, you gotta, it's kind of like being a kicker in the NFL, where if you miss a kick, you gotta just like, all right, like get it next time, get it next show.
Right.
Because there are going to be those days where you go out, you feel like, oh, everybody's so happy, everybody loved the show, but I had a bad vocal performance tonight. And I've done that to myself plenty of times, where I'll be beating myself up, where everybody else is like, what's wrong, dude? The show was amazing. And I'm like, oh, I missed these notes, or I, went flat here. And, I think at the end of the day, you just gotta kind of realize, like, this, especially rock music, is not a perfect,
Right.
perfect. Like, people don't want you to go out and sound, T for
Right.
T exactly the same. They want to hear, they'd much rather have you moving around on stage and giving 100% energy and giving a 90% vocal performance than giving 100% vocal performance, but not, just kind of standing there the whole time. So,
well, could you imagine if rock stars, like rock bands, like you guys, and I've seen you guys so many times, and there's so much energy on stage, but could you imagine if you were singing and Eric's screaming and you guys were like,
just
like standing like opera
almost.
singers.
Exactly. Like, I think that's the thing too. It's like, at the end of the day, I never would want to do that. So I always want to be the guy bouncing around and getting people excited. So I think that's just the biggest thing at the end of the day too. Whether you're a singer or just a musician in general, kind of just take that like next song approach, where, hey, if you mess up on a thing, just use it as or motivation to get yourself better. And that next morning, wake up, practice a little bit, go out, kill the next show, and you'll be fine. So yeah, you just got to kind of fight through some of the demons that I guess can sometimes come in when you're a singer.
Right. Cool. Well, thank you so much. We've been already talking for almost a half hour, so I'm gonna let you go. Thanks everyone who joined us and submitted questions. Thanks to Specs Howard, who's sponsoring our virtual rock room, and happy 4th of July. The next single, Every Time You Leave, hits radio very soon. Very excited about that. Congratulations on all the success, and certainly hope to see you getting married on November 8th down there at LCA.
Heck yeah. Like I said, you got to go just make sure you get ordained in time so you can make it happen.
Absolutely. Well, happy 4th of July. Thanks so much for hanging out, and we'll see you soon, all right?
Same to you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.